Oh, all right. Good morning, everyone. We are today with Robert Hemphill of National Sports Distributors. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Start things off already. And with the first question, what piece got you started in memorabilia, Robert? And how did that piece get your interest?
Okay. So back around in the 1986 or so, 87, I started going just as I guess you would call it a collector, to a couple of the card shows. And card shows were all related to baseball.
Mhm.
So this would have been around 1988, 87, 88. And my mom had found my old baseball cards up in the attic. And so I started going to the shows, and I noticed that there was hardly any football, but just a little bit of football. And so I said, there's got to be a better product for the athletes to sign when football starts. So I started and created the very first white panel football. And so I did it with Wilson Sporting Goods. I needed the Wilson name because of the NFL. And so I developed, cutting things up and gluing things together, what color to use, should I use gold? Should I use this? I ended up with white. I made a single white panel ball, and I made a 3 white panel ball, and it took off. And so that was, and we sold, obviously there's white panel footballs all over the place now. So that was the start of it. And then, I can go into other product development as well, but probably another item at that time was, there were really 2 other items. And this is a collector question, or is this a business question?
It's how you started collecting memorabilia.
Okay. Well, so this is all still related to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's going to cross over into the business side because it's really what started me. And then, so I developed that, and then the Super Bowl footballs that are used in the game, they started that in Super Bowl 20. They make a special football because the Bears were in the Super Bowl and Wilson's out of Chicago. So it was Super Bowl 20. They said, hey, let's make a special printed football. So they did that. And so then they did it through, 2021, and they just kept it going. So come around 24, I went to, and that was right around 89 or 90. And I said, I can sell these footballs. And they said, do you think you can sell these footballs? And I said, yeah. So I started, and I brought the Super Bowl footballs to the marketplace. So that, and then that really took off as well. We couldn't get the footballs fast enough, and we still sell them today. And then the other thing was there were the public autograph sessions going on, and one of my good friends was friends with Jerry Rice. And so I said to him, how about, because I had the warehouse and everything. I had a warehouse for another business that I had. And so as I started this business, so I already had everything in place. And so I said, how about we see about people sending in their items instead of having to go to a public line? How about people send in their items, and if they want something, we have the footballs or helmets and everything, and we'll get that for them. So I was trying to figure out, what am I going to call it? What am I going to call it? What am I going to call it? And I said, well, there's the public shows. Oh, I'll call it a private signing. So that was where that started. And that phrase has been kept ever since. And we did a lot of stuff. So I would record every box that got opened because it was also brand new, make sure everything got recorded in case there was any problems, which we didn't have. But anyway, so that's how it kind of started.
All right. So that's how the business started? Is that correct?
Well, the business started as well as really the collecting, because all I had was a little box of cards.
Awesome.
So at that time, my collection, basically, my business became my collection.
Wow. And that, you mentioned a while ago, if I heard that correctly, so you have a card that was that you have collected before, or is that card already?
When I was a kid. Yeah, when I was a kid, whenever I was 6 years old to 12 years old, the old little beat up box of cards, which really didn't have much value in it because they were put on bicycle spokes and stuff.
Sound.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And it wasn't a lot of cards. It was, maybe 100 cards or 200 cards, something like that. So that's how the interest started. And then having another business, I had a veterinary supply company at the same time for 35 years. And I've been doing this for 34. So I just used the same employees, the same warehouse, everything to get going. And then, things that are part of the collection, I guess, would be more or less things that I've set aside for my two boys. Or, I really don't have anything at home except a big, large Dwight Clark and I made wine together. So I have that at home. But otherwise, I really don't have much at home because I'm here at work with it all the time. And I keep the two separate when possible.
All right. And with the collection that you have, since you mentioned that you have your collection is also translated to the inventory of the business, do you have a specific, since you started collecting when you were 6 years old, and do you have a specific piece that for someone else, the value does not much have weight of value to them, but for you has a different value, has a strong emotional attachment to it, or you could say the sentiment?
Probably a little bit. I would say a card that probably has a $15 or $20 value to it was Juan Marichal, who was a pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. So our neighbors were from Puerto Rico. And so Juan Marichal would come over to his house in Orlando, Cepeda, and we would play backyard baseball. Actually, right here.
Wow.
That's
cool.
me there playing backyard baseball. And that's Orlando there. And then my buddies in the neighborhood. So I used to get upset because Marichal would pitch and play first base at the same time. And I didn't think that was proper in backyard baseball. So, but they were just, and then you go home and listen to them on the radio and they'd come by frequently.
Wow. So that's your memorabilia for them because you grew up with them.
Yeah. Personal things, not so much of everything's tied to personal. It's not like necessarily what I have. It's the experiences behind what you have.
All right. Awesome. So it's the tangible item that lets you remember that memory that you have.
Correct. And that's a lot of things that I have set aside are that way.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't set them aside for the dollar value. I set them aside for emotional value, more or less.
And that's how collections should be, right? They take you to a place, and it's a talking piece that you could tell the story behind it and all that.
Yeah, and one of your questions on here relates to that same type of thing. Is I think it's how does it relate? Something about how would you recommend people collect, or how do you start?
Yes.
And I think you have to divide your collection, things that you want to collect that you enjoy and you don't care about the value. And then you separate things that you're trying to collect for an investment purpose. Don't try to, hopefully the things that you get that you just like, they go up in value or they have some value later, but don't try to mix them up. It's the same type of thing as when you're watching a football game. You want this team to win personally, but then if they do win, it might hurt you in business on the other way. So you have to, I've learned through watching the games that you have to separate those things and stick with your emotional side first and then see where everything else falls.
Awesome. So that's the learning you'd like to pass for beginner collectors, to have a separate item that you'd like for dollar value and a separate item for like emotional value that you want to see every time and have this emotion when you see them.
Right. And those that are really going to be big in collecting are most likely going to have crossovers, in those categories. So, but that's one of the things I would suggest.
Yeah. And in your collection, what would you say is your favorite piece or your favorite pieces?
Well, one would be that card that I just mentioned. The other things would be probably I've worked with over 400 athletes, and I've been an agent for probably about 40 guys total. An agent in the aspect of not player agreements with the teams, but with appearances and, corporate events and things like that. So
Wow.
I would say the photos and the memories, I mean, I have a lot of photos of guys or this or that, and they don't have any value to anybody, but it's just nice to have them. And I don't even know where all of them are. I mean, it's a lot, and a lot of relationships. And it's mostly not just a photo. Oh, look at me with this guy. It's not that type of thing. It's the photos where you had people that you really enjoy and you have a relationship where you pick up the phone and you call them and you talk to them. Those type of good relationships. I'm not just talking about like, you meet somebody in the parking lot and put your arm around me, take a photo. That's not what I'm really talking about. Yeah, it's the other ones.
It's a type of photo that when you show it to people, one story will lead to another and to another and to another.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I even keep, some of the phone call conversations or the voice messages from guys, and a lot of the guys that I've worked with, I hate to say it, a lot of them have passed away. So, when you have those recordings, it's just nice, to have it. So,
of course, definitely. And with also going back to your collection, what's the rarest or most valuable item that you've had in your collection?
Right now, I would probably say it's Muhammad Ali autographed bells. Wow. I did a lot with Muhammad Ali through his agent, and we were a master distributor for Everlast Sporting Goods. And so I contacted Everlast and I said, I don't like these little teeny bells that you guys just hit with the stick, that you sell. I want the real bells from back in the day. Okay. The real bells with the striking arm that would come down. As a matter of fact, I have one in here. Oh, I have one right here too.
Wow, within arm's reach.
So
wow, yeah, the big one. That's really
so cool. Yeah, these Okay. Wow. So
that's cool.
That was not planned for these photos to be here or these items right here. I'm just in my office,
Yeah, it's cool.
So,
cool. Thanks for showing me.
So that bell, I had to get in touch with Everlast. I said, how do I find who made these old bells back then? And they said, well, let me find out. And they called me back and they said, it's actually a cowbell manufacturer, with the cows, with the bells in front. Yeah. So they gave me the number of the guy, and I called the guy out, and it's someplace in the mid part of the country. And I said, I'd like to get 500 bells. And he said, well, and he's got the accent. Well, I don't know if I've got that many parts, but let me go out to the barn. That's literally what he said. Let me go out to the barn, and I'll see what I've got, and I'll call you back in a couple of days. So he called me back and said, I've got enough to do 225 bells. So we did that, and that was extremely well received. I wish I had them all back now, but on the investment side, but that was probably one of the best items. And then another item was when the class of 2000, the 49ers had a very good class that went into the Hall of Fame. It was the owner of the Steelers, but besides that, it was Joe Montana, Dave Wilcox, Ronnie Lott, and then Howie Long was in there as well. So during that, I got 500 of the full-size helmets, and I had all 10 of the 49er athletes that were in the Hall of Fame. Coach Bill Walsh wasn't able to attend, so I just his wife was ill and he was out of the state. So I had, I've got it in front of me here on a jersey. So I had John Henry Johnson, who's passed away, Bob St. Clair, who's passed away, Hugh McElhaney, who's passed away, Jimmy Johnson, Ronnie Lott, Joe Perry, who's passed away, Joe Montana, Y.A. Tittle, who's passed away, Leo Nomalini, who's passed away, and my very close friend Dave Wilcox, who just recently passed away. So, yeah, that's and I think I only have like 2 of those helmets left, out of going through them all. So that was a great project.
So they have the signatures, all of them in the single helmet.
On the single helmet with HOF in their year, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a I could pull out another photo. Let's see if I can grab this. So here's actually a photo of the whole group on that day. I put them all in jerseys and we took team photos of the jerseys. So there you have all 10 of the guys and my crew that we did that signing with that day. And again, this is not planned. It's just what you're asking me these questions. That
Are you the one in the white one that's kneeling in the lower corner?
What's that?
Are you the one kneeling in the lower corner that's on white?
No, I'd be right here.
Oh, there you go.
I'm there, and those are my 2 little boys at the time, my wife behind me, and then other people. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Really cool. What would you say is the value of the helmet? What's the range of the value of the helmet?
The Ali, basically anything that's unique by Ali now seems to go for 10 grand or more.
That's just the bell.
Yeah. You'll find some that are less, but and you'll probably find some that are more, but anything that's Muhammad Ali, that's a unique item, like, even the old Everlast satin trunks, or what am I trying to say? The robe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you put that in a frame and you put it salt in the right place, that'll go for like 15 grand.
Wow.
Yeah. Photos, gloves are basically, 1,200 or somewhere around there, I think right now. I'd have to go and have that checked. But the unique items, and again, these bells, there was only 225 of them. So,
wow.
So that, and then I guess another item would be Dwight Clark and I worked with a company here in the wine country. We made wine together. So, and that was a successful project. And so that would be something, that's what I have at home.
Wow.
Is a big wine bottle like that. Actually, here's one of them right here.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's really unique pieces that you're showing me.
Pardon?
Those are really unique pieces that you're showing me.
Yeah, it's more than just a, I love product creation. And that's something else I can go into and let you know more about what I've done in that direction whenever you're ready.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, yes, please let us know about how you create this product. How did you come up with what piece goes where and what unique pieces are like?
I've always, I guess it's a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit. You get ideas and you just go with it versus somebody else telling you what to do. So, so the white panel footballs and the Super Bowl footballs, about that. Also, I brought to the Pro Bowl footballs were being only made for the game. So I would get extra runs of those and bring those in and sell them. Then at one point, Wilson, when Roselle football stopped and Tagliabue came around, Wilson stopped making the Roselle ball. And I'm like, we need the Roselle ball. I'm not going to have guys, I don't want guys to sign the ball that they didn't play with. So I got them, and we had to get Roselle to authorize it through Wilson that it could be continued to be made. So I brought that in, and then I went back and created the throwback Duke football as well, which is a dark brown one. That was used for, there were many different versions of the old throwback Duke, but I made a really nice one. They don't make it anymore. They changed it and used a cheaper leather and stuff, which I don't like. But I started that and brought that to the marketplace. And then Muhammad Ali with Everlast, Everlast just had a red glove with a gold satin on it. It was a yellow satin, and Ali didn't box with that. So through Everlast and over in India, or Pakistan, excuse me, I had to make the white satin so that it would match, and then stuffed it better so it would hold up for autographing on leather, not the vinyl, but the leather. So I did that, and then of course Everlast put that in their line. Wilson put the white panel footballs in their line, and then still on the white panel side was I created the white panel for Spalding, because we were a Spalding master distributor. And so with the white panel on the full size, and then I created a small basketball like this, just sitting here at my desk again.
Wow.
This size, this is a special logo one that we do for another company. But, this size basketball, which I basically took the NBA game ball and threw it in the dryer and made it shrink and made it in a composite. And so I brought that to the marketplace. And then we did a white panel version of that too. And then with at Rydell, with a helmet manufacturer, I've been a master distributor for them for 34 years, and there's only a few of us in the country. And I remember when teams, the team would change a logo on their helmet, and Rydell would call up, say, we're changing the logo. You will mark these down. What's extra inventory here? And you want to buy them? I go, sure, I'll buy them. So I kept doing that. And then I finally, when I was back in Chicago with Rydell, I told them, I said, thanks, but it's not the right thing to be doing. You need to keep making. I walked into this. I said, well, you got to keep making the old helmets. And I walked into this room at their production facility, and it was filled, huge room, filled with all the old pads. And I'm like, and they had a wheel. They literally had a big wheel that would turn, and it was like the goop would come out and then it would dry as the wheel would turn. Okay, like kids when we had creepy crawlers or whatever. So I said, you need to use these old pads and put them in the helmets and make the old helmets. Really? You think that'll work? Yeah. So that's kind of where that started with that. And I've given them feedback on other things. But that was probably the most important there, was getting that throwback line to go, so those would probably, just off the top of my head, those are probably the primary things. I'm looking around here right now.
So you can say that some of the items that these companies were doing that they almost discontinued are part of their current lineup because you wanted to have them in the lineup and it was selling like hotcakes.
If you're going to have an athlete sign something and they're retired, you want them to sign what they had on the field.
That's true.
You don't want them to sign a different logo. And I've always been extremely sensitive about that. Like, I just don't want to grab, a current NFL game ball of today and have the older players sign that ball. To me, it's just not right. And when people want, the jersey world extremely well, but if an authentic jersey was a silk screen jersey that they wore when they were playing, that's the authentic jersey. Some people will think that it's got to have sewn on tackle twill and this and that to be the authentic jersey. Well, That's true in many cases, but you really want the authentic to be what the player used at that time.
Yeah.
It could be a cheap production, or it could be a high quality production. Not necessarily quality. It's just whatever it was. That's the authentic jersey.
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing with helmets too. And before the downturn around 2008, when the economy went down, and you probably know this quite well, Wilson, is that everybody wanted the authentic. Then when the economy went down, people had to go to the replicas, and because they couldn't afford it. There wasn't just the money around. So that's when the replicas and the lower quality things started to kick into the marketplace, and it serves a need. But for a collection, if you really want something and you want it to be long lasting, or you're going to get multiple autographs on it, get the real deal, and you'll never be disappointed that you spent a few extra bucks to get the real deal, because it always will be solid inventory. Anybody will buy an authentic item. Not everybody will buy a replica item.
Yeah. Especially if you're getting a signature of a player that's high value, it matches with a high value item that he would sign too.
Correct. And, there is that spot now, if you have a lower end autograph, to put it on a lower end item. But if you're going to collect multiple, like if you're going to go and get, many guys on one team or this or that, start with the real helmet, or, the real, whatever item, it is, get the most authentic that you can.
Yeah, of course. Speaking of having a good item that people would sign on, what are your tips in maintaining a collection? Since there's always that balance that you're looking for, that if you have a collection, you want it to be a talking piece. You want to tell people the memories that are in there, the story in there. But there's also a side that you're trying to prevent the autographs not to fade among the sunlight. I mean, there are UV items and all that. Right. But how do you maintain a collection? What's the balance of showing an item and still maintaining it?
It makes a lot of difference as to how the item is signed to get started with. Anybody can get something signed, and help remind me if I get off the topic to come back to your question here. Sure. Okay. But anybody can get something signed. Here, go and sign it. And you can sign the wrong side, and they can use the wrong pen. They can use the wrong pen on the wrong type of material. On jerseys, as the different tackle twists, the import will bleed much more than the American made, et cetera, et cetera. And so back in the, let me answer your question, and I guess I'll come back. Light is a major factor. I mean, if you don't need to display it, don't display it. Pull it out when you want to display it. And then I would say the second factor is the pen that was used on the item. So back in the days, I'm going back to I'll just say in the 1990s, we used a lot. It started with a lot of blue pens, and commonly known as the Sharpie, but we didn't use Sharpie. We used a different marker that was darker called the Vis-a-Vis. They no longer make them. I still have some in stock, and it was a darker blue, and it would hold better. It was more of a permanent type. It was an overhead projector, permanent type of pen, and so we would buy those in the thousands and thousands and use those, and those held up better. But mostly blue was used at the beginning, because if you recall, when architects would make their plans, they would be in blue, because then they couldn't be copied. The blue didn't copy easily on a machine, and we didn't have the technology back then like they have today to make something look perfect, So for people in the forgery market, you would use a blue pen so that if they tried to copy it and then sell it as an autograph, the blue wouldn't reproduce properly. So it was putting up a block so that they couldn't do that as much as possible. So we went that way with blue pens for such a long period of time. And then really with the white panel football, I I did a lot of pen researching and got the right type of paint pens to use on the white panel football. And then, of course, they changed the formula in the pen, and then that screwed up things. But the paint pens now, we use paint pen on most everything that we can, because I kind of say it's like frosting on a cake. It goes on a lot thicker, and that holds up for longevity and even in light, etc. But then you have to also be careful when you're having athletes sign. Some athletes sign so fast that the ink in a paint pen doesn't flow down fast enough. So you have to lay things out to the personality of the athlete, or talk to the athlete to make sure that they know how to slow down if you can. But, some guys are very fast and some guys are very good. I know when I work with Montana, I know I get one autograph every 2.2 seconds when I lay things out and have things set up properly. And the most I've done with him in one day is about 9,300 items. So when you're working with somebody like that and you've got a lot to do, setup is everything. You've got to have the setup. And if things are set up and signed properly with the right pens, and that helps keep your collection, your items, in good shape for many years.
Wow. That's a lot of information there. So it's having a light, not displaying it if you don't need to display it, having the proper pen, and making sure that you're using the proper pen and you're maintaining the proper pen.
Yeah. And the other thing too, of course, there are display cases and things, you can spend a lot of money and you can spend hardly any money for display cases, but you get the UV protection that will help, but still it's not 100% type of deal.
It just delays the process.
You got to look at the item, and then you go with something like I did a lot of limited edition. I produced a lot of lithographs too with an artist called Daniel M. Smith. There's probably some of his stuff in here. Oh, there's one there. And in the lithographs, we sign in pencil. Pencil traditionally has been used a lot for art. You didn't want to use a paint pen over the guy's artwork and have the athlete sign over the art. That's an insult to the artist. Okay. So you would sign in the white border area and you use pencil. Pencil does not fade. Pencil holds up for a long time. So you'll notice most art through the years has always been done with pencil in the white borders down below.
Wow.
So again, getting things signed properly, and pencil, you can have it out in light and everything, and the pencil will basically hold up. Everything can fade, but basically it holds up.
The pencil will hold up. Wow, that's new. That's really new. Thanks for letting me know about that one. And with your collection, you've been collecting for so long, or you've been collecting for so long. When you look at, since it's also part of your inventory in the business, and you go to the business every day and you see your collection every day, when you look at your collection today, what do you feel?
My collection is my business. We have besides the warehouse and wholesale type of shipping, we have a retail location as well. And so when you go and sit there, the retail location is also basically a big place where we have our offices too. So basically, you go out there and people come in and they just go, wow, I've never seen a store like this before. And because we have a lot more unique things out there than would be traditional. And we're not a card store. We're a memorabilia store. So when you go out there and look at it, it just looks different, and there's unique items. And, I guess every day coming to work is a fun day, and we get so many compliments all the time. And the autographs that we sell, all the autographs were with the athlete when it's signed. So we use our own hologram system. It says autograph witnessed by. And we have another division of our business where we do sell some other authenticated merchandise, but the primary focus through our business and through the years is all the autographs that we sell. We're with the athlete when it's signed. And when you go out and you look out that and you say, all these guys, all the merchandise we have, we've been with them. And that I guess that kind of answers your feeling there a little bit. So that's a nice thing.
Awesome. That's awesome. With your still going back to your collection, with your collection, was there any point in time when there was a piece that just played hard to get?
Well, yeah, when you have player-owned items, those are obviously one of a kind. So that narrows that down. Just certain things. I guess it just comes down to the volume or certain. It's a good question, but it depends on. Do you consider 200 items a hard item to get when you look across the country? Well, there are 200 of them, but okay, they're still hard to get. Or like Dwight and I did 5,000 bottles of wine, but they're all gone, so now they're gone. I don't. It's kind of once something sells out and it can't be reproduced. Obviously that's a big factor. When somebody passes away or surprisingly passes away, when Johnny Unitas surprisingly passed away, that's when a light went off in my head. Is like, and at first it was very shocking, and it was like, wow, Unitas passed away, and what do I have? And I don't mean that in really. I mean, first the emotional side was more important, but then you look at it after that. One of my other very close friends was Cliff Branch, and I represented him from the Raiders, and he died suddenly. And when I get to heaven, I'm going to give him abuse and say, how come you didn't let me know you were going to die? I would have loaded up on your autographed memorabilia before you died, But so anyway, I guess it's just unique. It's more the memories with being with the athletes, and it's another thing too with the athletes. And this is kind of maybe an important topic, but it's a little bit on the side. Is I have two boys. Huh?
I said, please carry on.
Okay. I have two boys, and one's 30 now, one's 25, and so I've been doing this for 34 years. So they've grown up with all of this. Okay, so when they were younger, like anywhere from 3 years old to basically 14 years old. Hey, I got a signing today. You want to go and meet the guy? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. So I would never tell them what the athlete did. I would just let them come with me to the signing, and there'd be private signings. And, so there'd only be like 5 or 6 of us there. And so he could spend several hours with the athlete. And so I'd let the children get to know them as individuals first, as people first. And then afterwards, I'd tell them what they did, or they could find out what that athlete had done. So it was always important for, when you're asking about unique items, I think it's more the memories and just getting to know the people as the athletes as people first. And then you go, wow, you did this, wow, you did that. Okay. So that's kind of a side note there, but in the questions of what's important, I think it all comes back to those getting to know the people. And there are certain athletes that, they're a reflection on me, and I'm a reflection on them when we're representing them or bringing them for events. So I've never had a written contract with any of my athletes. Wow. I've always just done it. I've always done it with a handshake or you enjoy working with me. I enjoy working with you, a little of the old-fashioned way, and that's still the way it is done today.
Wow, it's a gentleman's agreement, and everyone holds their end of the bargain.
Exactly, wow. And word travels pretty fast too. Yes. So before I start anything, I would pay the guys before we get started, and player A talks to player B, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you just build the relationships. When at the warehouse, speaking of relationships, is Joe Montana's parents when they were alive.
Mhm.
They would come by and sit in my office right here at this table I'm sitting at right now every
Mhm.
week. And if it wasn't every week, it was every other week. And they would just come in and Robbie, we're here to watch. They call me Robbie. Robbie, we're here to watch you work. And they would just come in and sit down and hang out and just watch me on the phones and do this and do that and this and that and that and this. And then, okay, we'll see you next week. Okay. And there was no appointments. It was just whenever they were driving through, they would just stop and
Mhm.
hang out, type of deal. And things like that are, those are the things that make things better.
Yes, of course. And
Yeah.
with the inventory that you have, can you also tell us the story behind National Sports Distributors?
Yeah, we've already gone over how it kind of got started, and then we've been a master distributor for Rydell and Spalding, but more Spalding when they had the NBA, and then Wilson Sporting Goods. We were also with Rawlings. I haven't done as much with Rawlings over the years, though, because our strength is football.
Mhm.
We stayed in the football channel because with football, you have items that cost more,
Mhm.
so you can make some money on it. It's hard to make a lot of money on an unautographed baseball.
Yeah.
Okay. You can make some money on an unautographed authentic helmet. Okay. So we've stayed in that channel, and also you get Christmas sales
Mhm.
with football, and you don't necessarily get that much in baseball. Football has a lot of athletes on each team. So
Mhm.
you can go to the other extreme, which is like basketball. There are very few athletes on each team. So there aren't as many products or signing opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a much bigger arena for football.
Mhm.
So that's where we've stayed in that avenue. Of course, if you have a strike or you have some bad, media due to certain actions of people off of the field, but that's going to be true in most any category. I
Yeah.
don't care
Any sports.
what industry you're in, but then the media frequently will blow up the situation, and that's discouraging. So the actions of the players on the field and off the field also make a big difference as to whether their product sells, and also if their autograph is readable. I didn't write this down, but I'm glad I remembered it now. Okay. If the autograph is readable, it will sell much better. I have literally had guys at the shows, athletes, come up to me and say, Robbie, how come my autograph? How come I'm a good ball player. I'm not selling that much. Why?
Mhm.
So we'll look at your autograph. Everybody else's is readable. When they go by the final, you have to take care of that final consumer. If grandma's looking for something for their grandson and they're walking through a store where your stuff's on sale and they can't read your autograph, she's
Mhm.
going to go walk right past it. Okay. You get up to somebody like Joe Namath and it's beautiful. You get Gail Sayers and it's beautiful. You get Curtis Martin and it's beautiful. You get Johnny Unitas. It's beautiful. You get those type of autographs and people will tend by far to buy that autograph. You get some guys like Joe Montana where if it was readable, you would think it's probably not real because everybody in his earlier years, it was readable when he was
Mhm.
first started. It was written out Joe Montana, but everybody knows his autograph. And when you get to that level, then you're okay.
Mhm.
Jerry Rice is very readable. Dwight Clark's was extremely readable. So when that's a big factor, and it's much more entertaining to when you're looking at your collection. You want to look at a scribble,
Yeah.
or you want to look at a nice autograph there.
Mhm.
That makes a big difference too. And then also kind of going on other tangents in regards to autographs and values.
Mhm.
and you probably already know this, Wilson, but when things are personalized, that knocks down the value. But that's also
true.
something that's very nice to have on that other side of your collection that you're collecting for yourself. It's what I have done now is my last name being Hemphill. I suggest others that they write it personalized to the Hemphill family, okay, or to the Molina family, because then it's not to Wilson, made out to Wilson. How many other Wilsons are they going to be
That's true.
pass it along to when you're gone? Okay. But when you have something that's made out to the Molina family, then you can pass that to most anybody in the family. You can go to daughters, sons,
family
cousins, anybody. It can go to so many other people down the road. But, you know, as years pass, I don't know if somebody's going to want an autograph that's out to Wilson or made out to Robert if their name is Dave.
Yeah, that's true.
So, so also in value, that takes things down. But of course, special inscriptions and things that you're aware of also increase the value too. And they write something like, you know, Super Bowl champion or something like that. Yeah.
With the name National Sports Distributors, how did that came about?
When I started the business in '89, I didn't know what avenue I was going to be selling product in. So I didn't know if I was going to be selling footballs for kids to use on the field, or you know, if it was going to be in the memorabilia side of the business. I didn't know what avenue or where the business was going to take me. So I didn't want at that time label myself in a particular channel. And I wanted, and we knew we were going to be a national, shipping coast to coast. So national was definitely part of it. And that kind of hurts me a little bit now, because like our URL for our website and our retail location is National Sports Memorabilia, or nationalsportsmemorabilia.com. Because if you just say National Sports Distributors and people are looking for memorabilia, they'll just maybe pass you right by. So we use both now. And we've actually thought about changing it to National Sports Memorabilia, but the distributorship is also a very important part of our name, letting us know that we do a lot of wholesale. You know, I handle between 5,000 and 60,000 autographs a year.
Wow.
For 34 years. I don't do as much now as I used to when I was younger. Physically, et cetera, I just can't do it. I'm an old rugby player and I'm kind of beat up and have had a lot of surgeries. So I just don't do as much as I used to. Yeah, I could have the crew and this or that, but, and we might, you know, grow back into that area again down the road here. But, you know, things have changed over the years, and, but I still, you know, enjoy it all. It's all, every day, we all have those days when you don't want to go to work. You get up and you're kind of aching and you go, I don't feel like going. But then once I get to work, I enjoy work every single day.
That's good. Good to hear. Wow. And what made you decide to have this business? Why not another business? Why this business that you're in right now?
Well, I've always, since I was a kid, there were basically three things that I always enjoyed or was out doing. One was chasing girls, okay, having fun. The other was animals. I love animals. And the third is sports. So when I got out of college and I graduated, I played rugby at San Diego State, and I graduated and I had a messed up knee at that time. So I started buying women's clothes and selling them at the flea market. And so after that, you know, just barking people in the flea market, and I built a chain of 11 women's clothing stores.
Wow.
And so I did that for 5 years. And then I got out of that business, and my next love has always been animals. If I wasn't out socially when I was a kid with my friends and doing all that, I was in the hills collecting reptiles, snakes, lizards, and that type of stuff. And so I had a veterinary supply. I didn't go to vet school, but So I had the veterinary supply company, and that was the business that I had already operating when I started the sports business. So I already had the warehouse, I already had all the materials, I had the computers, I had everything that was needed. And again, that was back in '89. I forgot my train of thought here. It's part of my problem in playing rugby. I've had so many concussions. I'll get on a sentence and boop, there it goes. But where was I going? You remember?
About what made you decide to have this business? You were already having
Yeah. Yeah. I got it. So it's one of my three loves. Yeah. So it's one of my three loves. So I've always done what I enjoy doing. So when starting going to like I said earlier, going to the baseball autograph sessions to the public, and football wasn't even being done yet. And I said, they need a smooth ball to be able to sign without the pebbles on it. And that's, basically how it all started. So basically it's the three things that I've always loved. I've always enjoyed the police and the criminal aspect and all that, because that's what I got my degree in, criminal justice administration. But basically those other things are the three things that I've loved for all the years. And that's what I've done in business.
So you could say that if you never started a business in sports memorabilia, you're still just going to be expanding your vet supply business.
I probably would have been, yeah, definitely. I would have kept that going strong. But I stopped that business about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Just because I just got spread too thin.
That makes sense.
But I totally enjoy that business as well. So yes, that's what I would have continued with.
Awesome.
And I did. I mean, they overlapped. They did.
Yeah.
They overlapped for all those years.
Awesome. And just for the record, can you just give us a brief run through of the items and services that you offer to your clients?
What type of products we offer to the clients?
Yes, just a brief run through of what you usually offer to your clients.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who's calling for what. But first, we're a wholesale supplier because we're a master distributors for Rydell and Wilson. So we sell stores. We sell to stores a lot of our products. Okay, and then the stores resell the product. Okay, so we're a wholesaler to the stores. And a lot of times I don't like to say wholesale because we get a lot of things at the distributor level. So we supply stores with autographed and unautographed memorabilia. Okay. And then the other aspect would be athletes available for events. So that would be it in a quick summary.
Awesome. Do you also have people go to the shop and then ask if you have this item or this item?
Yeah, people naturally ask that question, but if somebody says, hey, can you get me a autograph of this player? And our answer usually to that is no, because we're with the athlete when everything is signed. So, I mean, it's extremely rare, maybe only, twice a year will I try to step out and find something for somebody, but probably only if I know the agent for that athlete. So then I would get it from him. So the answer is no, it's mostly our merchandise.
All right. Yeah. And
I never worry about our autographs. I never have to worry about the authenticity of our autographs.
Of course.
Never.
Yeah. And since you like to create items and produce very unique items, what would you say is a weird or crazy request that you've gotten in this business?
Probably when I have athletes in public line where girls want a part of their body autographed.
Wow, really? Wow.
Yeah. And I know some of them then taken that and turned it into a tattoo, type of deal. But that's rare. I mean, obviously you're asking something in that direction that would be unique or rare, type of stuff. But I think that's probably some of the most funny things. And then, you're in line and you're, so anyway, I mean, we've done things where we bring athletes for, birthdays and things like that, but I don't think that that's really that rare. It's unique and it's a great opportunity. But yeah, when it comes to the physical items, I don't think there's something that's really out of range except something like that.
Okay. Still, the signature to the body is something that's crazy too.
Yeah.
And since you go and have so many interactions with many players, is there a specific player that for you was just really memorable?
I kind of tell people ask me that frequently, like, who's the best player or this or that. And there are a lot of good ones. But when we would have shows and we might have, 40 athletes at the show, the public comes to see the athletes. The athletes came to see Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Yeah. So that he was the king. I think everybody just loved him and respected him, and he had such a great sense of humor as well. Even with the Parkinson's and stuff, he'd be fun. You would always have a good time with Muhammad Ali. There are a lot of other great athletes that give plenty of time to the public line. And here's another thing on a tangent type of deal is you'll sometimes hear people, and this is not to put anybody down, this is just talking kind of business right now, but you'll see people say, oh, I was there and this athlete, he was at the show and he wouldn't shake my hand or this, that, he just signed the item and passed it. And they'll say, well, that guy really had a bad attitude. And I go, well, let's look at it a little bit different. The promoter may have that athlete for 2 hours, and let's say he's got to pay him $50,000 for 2 hours. The promoter's going to say, I don't want you shaking hands. I need to get as many autographs in front of you as possible to pay you. So I don't want you to shake hands. I don't want you to take pictures. I just want you to sign and pass the item, sign and pass the item. So that creates negativity on the athlete and the event itself. So when I book athletes, I always do it by the per autograph. So, and you give an estimated amount of time. It's going to take like 2.5 hours or whatever, but you do it on a per autograph basis. Because then if the athlete wants to stop and talk to somebody, they do that. And so then you get the true personality of the individual. Some players are known for staying in line for a long time because they want to make the public happy. And I would say probably the number one guy for doing that is Dan Marino.
Yeah.
Dan Marino would stay in line or hours and after hours and talk to people. And there are others that do it as well. Okay. There are a lot of good guys like that, but, and a lot of them that I've even mentioned here today, but, I always think of those people. I think of Dan because I remember Dan just being out there taking care of the public. So you have to be careful about how things are set up. And that also expands into promoters may say, oh, the athlete was a no-show. Well, you never know if the athlete was really a no-show. There might have been something else that wasn't the athlete's fault that caused, quote, the no-show, or maybe he wasn't even booked. Okay. So those type of things need to be watched. And you always, of course, there are those exceptions where there are some athletes that have that attitude, but those are the ones you don't want to take out to public.
Yeah, of course, definitely. And you mentioned a while ago that your most memorable interaction was with Muhammad Ali. Can you tell us more about your interaction with Muhammad Ali? What made it memorable?
His personality and things. And I remember talking with his agent, and I used to make the checks out. This was you're talking in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd make the check out to GOAT,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, what's GOAT? I mean, now it's a common term.
Yeah.
And my friend named Harlan said that he was sitting and they were trying to figure out what to call the company or whatever they were going to do at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Muhammad Ali just stood up there on the couch. He said, we'll call it GOAT. And he's like, what? We're going to call it GOAT? Yeah. Greatest of all time, because that's what he used to say all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the greatest of all time, right?
Yes.
And so when people say things like, who's the original GOAT, or who, it's Muhammad Ali. I mean, there are other great players, but the GOAT, before people even use the word GOAT,
He made a company out of it.
He was having his checks made out to GOAT. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
GOAT Enterprises or GOAT something like that. So that goes way back. And I every time I kind of hear somebody say, oh, this player's the GOAT or that player's the GOAT. Okay, they might be the GOAT in that little spot, but the original GOAT
Mm-hmm.
was Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali. He's the one that started it. He had the phrase, I'm the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it started. Yeah. And so Muhammad was always fun. Like even with the Parkinson's, when we're signing the bells and stuff, if you rang that bell and he heard that bell, he would pop right up real fast, like he's ready to go. And you could joke with him and he would joke back. And, he's always, very, very polite and considerate to people in the line. And with stories, and we'd sometimes, have little things. I remember a couple of times where we'd set things up to make people laugh and, embarrass them with Muhammad Ali type of deal. He was always just fun to be around. He was just fun, and he was kind. And, frequently one of his family members would travel with him as well. And they were kind. They're just nice, good people. And a lot of the athletes are that way as well. It's not just Muhammad Ali. There are many, many athletes that are kind and have, family that travel with them that are kind, and appreciative. Appreciative, I think, is a good word too. But because Muhammad Ali was literally the most recognized face throughout the world for a period of time, and here you're with this guy and you're having fun for a few hours, And so yeah, I would say he's top dog, or definitely the king, the GOAT, the original GOAT.
Oh yeah, no contention on that. And
yeah,
our next question will be going to the business side. What would you say are some of your top philosophies in business?
Honesty, ethics, and relationships.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, if particularly in this industry, with autographs to begin with, you have to be honest, and you never mislead anybody. When I started this sports business, I already had the veterinary supply. And when I started this business, I said, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to put money second. And I'm going to put honesty and integrity first. And that's what I've done all these years. And there's been times where I've had to take a loss to keep the integrity, type of deal, without going into any details. But you just have to put the honesty first. And if there's always, like when you're out with an athlete or doing this or doing that, there'll be little hitches in the get along. Okay. So if you have a problem and I have an athlete with me and something, you're expecting it to go ABC and suddenly it doesn't go ABC, just go up to the athlete and say, hey, this is what's happened here. I'll get it corrected. I need an extra 10 minutes here. We're going to just hang out for 10, and you go and get it done. And then they always know that you're honest, and you're telling them everything up front, and there's nothing hidden in the back.
Mhm.
That's probably the most important thing, and then that also works on the relationships. So when they know they can count on you and trust you, and you protect them and they protect you. And I used to suffer a lot from migraines, and I always tell the guys, I said, hey, if I have a migraine, you got to take care of yourself, And they said, don't worry, Rob, we got you covered, so they're covering me just as much as I'm trying to cover them. And you just work as a team. You work as a team effort, and everything goes well, and you have a fun time doing it. That the honesty and integrity, I think, is the number one thing.
Mhm.
And good communication, of course, goes with that, and to build the relationships.
Awesome. Super. That's super. And with the business being more than 34 years, what would you say are some of your top challenges that you face in those 34 years?
The development of the internet
Mhm.
was definitely something that happened in the middle of the business, the history of the business.
Mhm.
That, I think, was the most challenging, or one of the most challenging things, because I was very, very reluctant to even go on the internet. Because I also felt like I was going to be cutting into our wholesale business if we had a business and we had a spot on the internet and they had a spot on the internet. So I held back for quite a while before going on the internet. The other thing would be when we would have signings and I'd go out into the warehouse, and this is when we used to print our photos. Okay. We'd print them, and I'd walk the warehouse and I'd say, oh, there's that guy's item. And I'd throw my photo of him signing that item. Oh, here's that item, and I'd throw the photo in the bins so that when they ship it, they'd have a photo. And then I'd walk the trade shows and I'd see my photos with forged merchandise. So that was very upsetting to me. The authenticators definitely have a place and a need in the industry. But when somebody is sending an item in, it's basically the authenticator's best guess. Mm-hmm. If the person's not there to actually witness the autograph, they can't say 100% that it's that item. Mm-hmm. If somebody's here at our location and they take a Jerry Rice ball out, and they, and it doesn't have a hologram or it doesn't have anything on it type of deal, and they go outside and come right back in 5 minutes, can I say that is 100% autograph by Jerry Rice now that it's left my possession?
No.
I really can't. I can't. I've been to, shows where, they have this huge line after the person gets the autograph and people are waiting to get their certificate. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people with their duffel bag drop that item in and pull a different item out. So, but then the other side is, when you have old merchandise mm-hmm. that was signed before, many, 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 many years ago, you need somebody to give their opinion as mm-hmm. to what it is. And that opinion is very valuable. And there are obviously some companies that are much better at it than others, mm-hmm. Without mentioning names. But, the primary ones are very respectable, and they're needed. They're needed in the industry to help curb the forgeries in the marketplace. They're doing a good service for the industry, the authenticators, because they're trying to get rid of all these bad guys. I remember when 60 Minutes had their very first show, when there was all that, Michael Jordan stuff. Was it all? And, it was a very negative of like, oh, there's all these forgeries in the industry. And I was depressed after that. And then one of my friends told me, he says, Rob, you shouldn't be depressed because all the stuff you sell, you're with the athlete. That makes you better than everybody else. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's a good idea. So, I was just looking on the wrong side of the coin when that was going on, you know? So we just had to educate people. So, so I think, you know, the internet authentication, you have to get used to it. Other challenges, no, those are going to be the two primary things. But both of those things, they were a challenge, but they also are a benefit. So, the internet was a challenge, and then it's a benefit. You know, the authentication system coming out, you know, is challenging, but then it's also a benefit. So that's not necessarily something that's really negative. It was basically a change in the way that we've done things for many years that we then have to adapt and work as a team to make things better for the industry. Because you need the reputation of the industry to be good. Okay. It's a benefit for everybody. If it were to get out that, you know, oh, the sports memorabilia business is a bad industry, you don't want to be in that, or this or that, that hurts everybody.
Yes.
And that's not the truth. Okay. You need the industry to be monitored and have the right type of people watching out for the industry, and everybody pitch in to keep it that way. And I think that's, you know, like our business, you know, 34 years, you know, you got to keep the ethics and things in line.
Yeah, because the people that are in the industry has to also adapt and be flexible to what are the demands of the people of the industry, so that the industry also still thrives and still has a longer life to live.
Right. And there's always going to be competition with your business. Okay. There's always going to be competition, but I can honestly say that I am friends with all my competition. I mean, there's a primary group of us that have been around for all these years, and I'm friends with my competition, and you work together, you know, as a benefit for the industry. And, you know, I'm just, you know, you're always going to have competition, and, you're not going to be able to monopolize everything, and you don't think you really want to either. There's plenty of space. I tell people this too. You know, when you're flying from New York to San Francisco, and people say, "Oh, hasn't that guy signed a lot? You know, this guy signed a lot." I said, "You know, you fly and you look down, and there's that little city of 50,000 people. Okay, and then you just give it another 40 seconds or 30 seconds, and there's another town of 50,000 people. And then you give it, and you're up in the air for, you know, 6 hours going cross country or whatever. There's plenty of space for everybody, you know, to sell product.
Everyone can thrive. There's space for everybody.
Right.
Speaking of competition, about that, there'll always be competition. You have grown this business for 34 years. So what would you say is what makes you unique in your domain among others, and what makes you stand out and different among the competition?
Again, the honesty, the integrity, the service, getting orders out quickly. You know, I don't go for one sale. I go for a relationship for multiple sales. So not just one sale.
Awesome.
That's
all right. With that question dealing about the business, now let's go with the businessman. With the business also being competitive, what drives you? What makes you bring your A game every day?
I enjoy what I do. The thing that also I think is good about football is every week, like Howie Long said in his Hall of Fame speech, it was like there's an obsession with football. People get excited. They build up for every week. They can't wait for the next week, and they're just all pumped up. You know, in baseball, it's different. And I love baseball. That was my first love of my sports. I'm a big old Giants fan. Mays, Marichal, McCovey, all those guys from growing up. But if we lost to them today, we'll get them tomorrow, And, 162 games, okay, we lose one here, we lose one there. Okay. Football, there's a big obsession with football. And that I think also creates enthusiasm much more so because it's such a buildup. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about it, going to work, particularly during the season, is that, okay, what's going to happen this weekend,
Yeah.
And it's really a celebration each weekend, or the Thursday or Monday game, whatever, each week. It's a celebration. The fan base is just so strong, and there's strong bases for other sports. Don't look at the Warriors in the Bay Area right now. It's great. Okay. But I don't know. I think I just look forward to the excitement all the time. And then during off season, I call it project time, project time during spring, during, you get things lined up. It's project time. So you get things lined up going forward for the next year.
I see that there's an underlying theme of the answers that have been being answered for the past recent questions about how you shift your focus and how you see things, and then suddenly it's a different perspective that suddenly benefits you. Like a while ago when we were mentioning about how the internet is out, then now people want authentication, but this also provides another view of how it benefits us, that the internet now suddenly more accessible, and then with the authentication, that everyone is now more confident with the industry, that the forgeries are getting swept out. And now with this off season, you're putting a different perspective of it being a project season. So with that, what am I leading to is, with those different ways you view things, have you ever thought of what is your defining moment as a businessman with a business that has been thriving for 34 years?
I think when you develop a product, for me, and this isn't necessary for other people, but for me, when you develop a product, it's the entrepreneurial spirit. When you develop a product, whether it be tangible or an idea for appearances or this or that, when you develop a product and it sells and it's unique and it's new, and that gives you, when you own your own business, you really don't have anybody above you to tell you you're doing a good job or this or that, okay? Because you're at the top. You got to tell that to other people. And so when you create something and you see it work in the industry and you see it sell and everybody's having a good time with it, I think that's one of the things that keeps you going and gives you a nice pat on the back and gets you excited to go do the next one.
Awesome. So you're excited about creating a new product that you open to the market. And to wrap the interview up, if someone would start a collection now, what, in your opinion, would be the first step that they should do in starting their collection?
I think they're naturally going to know, I think, divide the investment versus the personal, like we talked about before. Okay. And then educate yourself before you start making purchases. In the card industry, which I know some about, but not like the card experts out there. You can be fooled by reprints and things like that. So educate yourself as much as possible. I have people that'll come through in the memorabilia side and say, oh, I just bought this item. It's normally like $400 and I got it for $50. And I go, whoa, okay. Well, I said, how do you know it's real? Well, I got a certificate of authenticity to go with it, so I know it's real. Well, they're going to give you a bad autograph. They're going to give you a bad certificate to go right with it. Okay. So you need to know your avenue of where you're getting your merchandise. Okay. Don't buy from P.O. boxes. Don't buy from businesses that really haven't been around. buy from people that you can pick up the phone and you can call them and they're there and you can talk to them. Make sure you're secure about your purchases. Now, we're all going to make mistakes, and I have too. You make some bad purchases or something and you go, that happens. But that happens to me. And when I talk about that, I'm talking more about cards for my fun side. Okay. Not my business side. Okay. But on my fun side as a collector. And you may think something's, you may say, oh, it's in this card, or example, people always say, oh, it's in perfect condition. Well, it's pretty dang hard to find a card in perfect condition. You may think your cards are in perfect condition, but they're probably not. Okay. So be realistic and be logical when you're collecting. Don't think that what you have is always going to be this big, great item. Now, hopefully you do have the big, great item, but don't set your sights too high so that you get depressed, So you found this card or this or that, I have so many people that'll come in and say, hey, I know this card is going for, $50,000 and I've got one. Yeah, well, maybe 50,000 of them have been graded and there's 2 of them, So I would say educate. You need to educate and read and learn, but then also know the sources of where you're reading this information from. You got to be careful. Some people might be trying to sell you something, and that's their primary reason for providing you that information that you're reading. So you've got to, again, it comes down to that honesty, integrity, and pulling things together. As a collector, I think you have to watch out for that.
All right. Very solid tips for everyone who's starting a collection. And any last few words for everyone who's going to listen to this section, who are going to read your section in the book?
I'm looking over some of my notes right now. I mean, do what you love doing is definitely a primary thing. No, I mean, do what you love doing, honesty, integrity, maybe not, and be open to learning the new ways. I'm an old dog now. I go into a place, I went to a signing the other day, and the agent for the athlete I had never met, and he looked over at me because everybody's younger. He looks over at me and he goes, who are you, the Godfather? And I go, yeah, I guess I would say I'm the Godfather, So, so yeah, listen to the guys that have been around for a while, and that'll help get you in the right direction too. So that's it.
Solid advice from Robert Hemphill of National Sports Distributors. Thank you very much, Robert, for being part of this initiative.
Okay, thank you too.